Piper says it's time to record. She's sitting right here on my computer. I wasn't ready, but here we are. And you can't even see her. Well, there she is. She's sitting like direct. Hello and welcome. I've done this intro 3 times now because Piper is sitting directly on my computer, right there, and she's opening things by sitting on my keyboard. So, this should be fun. We'll see how much we can actually get done with her sitting there. Oh, Pipe. You're typing. Piper. Piper. Baby girl. This is Piper. She apparently likes to type on keyboards if I don't touch her enough. She also doesn't look me in my eyes unless I'm not looking at her. So, whiskers are so long, baby. This is gonna be Cuddle with Piper time, I guess. I was gonna read, but now that she needs attention, this is gonna be a whole different video. Ow! Why you bite? Okay, I guess I'll read them. She's a stinker. I really like her though, she's really cute. Alright, so back to the regularly scheduled program. What is going on with my hair? Took a shower last night and I didn't brush it when I got out of the shower, so I just let it like curl on its own, and then I went to bed and now it looks weird. Hans Christian Andersen Tales. Publisher is Canterbury Classics. And I'm going to read 2 stories, no matter how long they are. The first one is Little Ida's Flowers. It's from 1835. And then I think the next one is Thumbelina, also from 1835, but we'll see. That might be the beginning of next week's video, or it might be this one. Who knows? So, Little Ida's Flowers from 1835. My poor flowers are quite dead, said little Ida. They were so pretty last evening, but now every leaf has withered and drooped. Why do they do that? She asked the student who sat on the sofa. She was very fond of him because he told such good stories and could cut such amusing figures out of paper hearts with dancing lilies inside them, flowers of all sorts, and castles with doors that you could open and close. He was a rollicking fellow. Why do my flowers look so ill today? He asked him again, and showed him her withered bouquet. Don't you know what's the matter with them? The student said. They were at the ball last night. That's why they can scarcely hold up their heads. Flowers can't dance, said little Ida. Oh, indeed they can, said the student. As soon as it gets dark and we go to sleep, they frolic about in a fine fashion. Almost every night they give a ball. Can't children go to the ball? Little daisies can go, so can lilies of the valley. Where do the prettiest flowers dance? Ida asked. Haven't you often visited the beautiful flower garden just outside of town, around the castle where the king lives in the summertime? You remember, the place where swans swim close when you offer them breadcrumbs. Believe me, that's where the prettiest flowers dance. Yesterday I was there with my mother, said Ida, but there wasn't a leaf on the trees or a flower left. Where are they? Last summer I saw so many. They are inside the castle, of course, said the student confidently. Just as soon as the king comes back to town with all his court, the flowers run from the garden into the castle and enjoy themselves. You should see them. The two loveliest roses climb up on the throne where they are the king and queen. All the red coxcombs line up on either side to stand and bow like grooms to stand and bow like groomsmen of the bedchamber. Then all the best dressed flowers come, and the grand ball starts. The blue violets are the naval cadets. Their partners, whom they call Miss, are hyacinth and crocuses. The tulips and tiger lilies are the old chaperones who see to it that the dancing is done well and that everyone behaves properly. "But," said little Ida, "doesn't anyone punish the flowers for dancing in the king's own castle?" Nobody knows a thing about it," said the student. "To be sure, there is an old castle keeper who is there to watch over things. Sometimes he comes in at night with his enormous bunch of keys, but as soon as the flowers hear the keys jingle, they keep quiet and hide, with only their heads peeking out from behind the curtains. Then the old castle keeper says, 'I smell flowers in here,' but he can't see any." Can you imagine being that castle keeper? Like, every time you're working overnight, you just smell outrageous amount of flowers, and there's none there. Just a little sus. "What fun," said little Ida, clapping her hands. "But couldn't I see the flowers either?" "Oh, easily," said the student. The very next time you go there, remember to peep in the windows. There you will see them, as I did today. A tall yellow lily lay stretched out on the sofa, pretending to be a lady in waiting." "Can the flowers who live in the botanical gardens visit the castle? Can they go that far?" "Why, certainly. They can fly all the way if it suits them. Have you seen lovely butterflies, white, yellow, and red ones? They almost look like flowers, and that's really what they used to be. They are flowers who have jumped up off their stems high into the air. They beat the air with their petals as though these were little wings, and so they managed to fly. If they behave themselves nicely, they get permission to fly all day long, instead of having to go home and sit on their stems. In time their petals turn to real wings. You've seen them yourself. However, it's quite possible that the botanical gardens flowers have never been to the king's castle, and don't know anything about the fun that goes on there almost every night. Therefore, I'll tell you how to arrange a surprise for the botanical professor. You know the one I mean. He lives quite near here. Well, the next time you go to the garden, tell one of his flowers that they're going to have a great ball in the castle. One flower will tell the others, and off they will fly. When the professor comes out in the garden, not a flower will he find, and where they've all gone, he will never be able to guess." Hi, sorry, my husband called, so I had to answer because that's my husband. When the professor comes out in the garden, not one flower will he find, and where they've all gone, he will never be able to guess. How can a flower tell the others? You know flowers can't speak. They can't speak, the student agrees, but they can signal. Haven't you ever noticed that whenever the breeze blows, the flowers nod to one another and make signs with their leaves? Why, it's as plain as talk. Can the professor understand their signs? Certainly he can. One morning he came into his garden and saw a big stinging nettle leaf signaling to the glorious red carnation. You are so beautiful. I love you so much." But the professor didn't like that kind of thing, so he slapped the nettle's leaves, for they are its fingers. He was stung so badly that he hasn't laid hands on a stinging nettle since. I'm allergic to nettles. I don't know if I still am, but I definitely was as a kid. So I understand how that feels. Not fun. Oh, how jolly, little Ida laughed. "How can anyone stuff a child's head with such nonsense?" said the prosy counselor, who had come to call and sit on the sofa too. He didn't like the student a bit. He always grumbled when he saw the student cut out those strange, amusing pictures, sometimes a man hanging from the gallows and holding a heart in his hand to show that he had stolen people's heart away. Sometimes an old witch riding a broomstick and balanced her husband on her nose. The counselor highly disapproved of those, and he would say as he did now, "How can anyone stuff a child's head with such nonsense, such stupid fantasy?" But to little Ida, what the student told her about the flowers was marvelously amusing. She kept right on thinking it. Her flowers couldn't hold their heads up because they were tired out from dancing all night. Why, they must be ill. She took them to where she kept her toys on the nice little table with a whole drawer of pretty things. Her doll Sophie lay asleep in the doll's bed, but little Ida told her, "Sophie, you'll really have to get up and be satisfied to sleep in the drawer tonight, because my poor flowers are ill. Maybe if I let them sleep in your bed tonight, they will get well again." When she took the doll up, Sophie looked as cross as could be and didn't say a word. She was sulky because she couldn't keep her own bed. Ida put the flowers to bed and tucked the little covers around them. She told them to be good and lie still while she made them some tea, so that they could get well and be up and about tomorrow. She carefully drew the curtains around the little bed so the morning sun would not shine in their faces. All evening long she kept thinking of what the student had said before she climbed into bed herself. She peeped through the window curtains to the fine potted plants that belonged to her mother, hyacinth and tulips too. She whispered very softly, "I know you are going to the ball tonight." But the flowers pretended not to understand her. They didn't move a leaf, but little Ida knew all about them. When she was in bed, she lay there for a long time, thinking how pleasant it must be to see the flowers dancing in the king's castle. Were my flowers really there, she wondered. Then she fell asleep. When she woke up again in the night, she had been dreaming of the flowers and of the student, and of the prosy counselor who had scolded him and said it was silly nonsense. It was very still in her bedroom where Ida was. The night lamp glowed on the table, and Ida's mother and father were asleep. Are my flowers still asleep in Sophie's bed? Ida wondered. That's what I'd like to know. She lifted herself a little higher on her pillow and looked towards the door that stood half open. In there were her flowers and all her toys. She listened, and it seemed to her that someone was playing the piano, very soft and very beautifully, and more beautifully than she'd ever heard it played. "I'm perfectly sure that those flowers are all dancing," she said to herself. "Oh my goodness, wouldn't I love to see them?" But she did not dare get up because that might awaken her father and mother. "I do wish the flowers would come in here," she thought. But they didn't. The music kept playing, and it sounded so lovely that she couldn't stay in bed another minute. She tiptoed to the door and peeped into the next room. Oh, how funny! What a sight she saw! No night lamp burned in the next room, but it was well lighted just the same. The moonlight streamed through the window upon the middle of the floor. It was almost bright as day. The hyacinths and tulips lined up in 2 long rows across the floor. Not one was left by the window. The flower pots stood there empty while the flowers danced gracefully around the room, making a complete chain and holding each other by their long green leaves as they swung around. Itchy. At the piano sat a tall yellow lily. Little Ida remembered it from last summer because the student had said, "Doesn't that lily look like Miss Line?" Everyone had laughed at the time, but now little Ida noticed that there was a most striking resemblance. When the lily played, it had the same mannerisms as the young lady, sometimes bending its long yellow face to one side, sometimes to the other, and nodding in time with the lovely music. No one suspected that little Ida was there. She saw nimble blue crocus jump up on the table where her toys were, go straight to the doll's bed and throw back the curtain. The stick flowers lay there, but they got up at once and nodded down to the others that they also wanted to dance. The old chimney sweep doll, whose lower lip was broken, rose and made a bow to the pretty flowers. They looked quite themselves again as they jumped down to join the others and have a good time. It seemed as if something clattered off the table. Little Ida looked and saw the birch wand that had been left over from Mardi Gras time was jumping down as if he thought he was a flower too. The wand did cut quite a flowery figure. The wand did cut quite a flowery figure with his paper rosettes, and to top him off, a little wax figure who had a broad trimmed hat, just like the one the counselor wore. The wand skipped about on his 3 red wooden legs and stomped them as hard as he could, for he was dancing the mazurka. The flowers could not dance it because they were too light to stamp the way he did. All of a sudden, the wax figure grew tall and important. He whirled around to the paper flower beside him and said, "How can anyone stuff a child's head with such nonsense, such stupid fantasy?" At that moment, he was a perfect image of the big-headed counselor, just as sallow and quite as cross. But the paper flowers hit back. They struck his thin shanks until he crumpled up into a very small wax mannequin. The change was so ridiculous that little Ida could not keep from laughing. Wherever the spectred wand danced, the counselor had to dance too, whether he made himself tall and important or remained a little wax figure in a big black hat. The real flowers put in a kind word for him, especially those who had lain ill in the doll's bed, and the birch wand let him rest. Why is my elbow switchy? What did you do? Piper sitting over there. Piper. Piper. Okay. Just then they heard a loud knocking in the drawer where Ida's doll Sophie lay with the other toys. The chimney sweep rushed to the edge of the table, lay flat on his stomach, and managed to pull the drawer out a little way. Sophie sat up and looked all around her, most surprised. "Why, they're having a ball," she said. "Why hasn't somebody told me about it?" "Won't you dance with me?" the chimney sweep asked her. "A fine partner you'd be," she said, and turned her back on him. "Oh, a fine partner you'd be," she said, and turned her back on him. A very different vibe. She sat on the edge of the drawer, hoping one of the flowers would ask her to dance, but not one of them did. She coughed. "Hum, hum, hum." It's literally just HM, 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 exclamation point. and still not one asked her. I'm imagining it. Yeah. And still not one of them asked her. To make matters worse, the chimney sweep had gone off dancing by himself, which he did pretty well. As none of the flowers paid the least attention to Sophie, she let herself tumble from the drawer to the floor with a bang. Now the flowers all came running to ask, "Did you hurt yourself?" They were very polite to her, especially those who had slept in her bed, but she wasn't hurt a bit. Ida's flowers thanked her for her use of her nice bed and treated her well. They took her out in the middle of the floor where the moon shone and danced with her while all the other flowers made a circle around them. Sophie wasn't at all cross now. She said they might keep her bed. She did it in the last minute. She didn't in the least mind sleeping in the drawer. But the flowers said, "No, thank you. We can't live long enough to keep your bed. Tomorrow we shall be dead. Tell little Ida to bury us in the garden next to her canary bird's grave. Then we shall come up again next summer more beautiful than ever." "Oh, you mustn't die," Sophie said, and kissed all the flowers. Then the drawing room door opened, and many more splendid flowers tripped in. Ida couldn't imagine where they had come from, unless why they must have come straight from the king's castle. First came the 2 magnificent roses wearing little gold crowns. These were the king and queen. Then came charming gilly flowers and carnations who greeted everybody. They brought the musicians along. Large poppies and peonies blew upon pea pods until they were red in the face. Blue hyacinths and little snowdrops tinkled their bells. It was such funny music. Many other flowers followed them, and they all danced together, blue violets with pink primroses and daisies with the lilies of the valley. All the flowers kissed one another, and that was very pretty to look at. When the time came to say good night, little Ida sneaked back off to bed too, where she dreamed of all she'd seen. As soon as it was morning, she hurried to her little table to see if her flowers were still there. She threw back the curtain around the bed. Yes, they were there, but they were even more faded than yesterday. Sophie was lying in the drawer where Ida had put her. She looked quite sleepy. "Do you remember what you were going to tell me?" little Ida said. But Sophie looked stupid and didn't say one word. "You're no good at all, and to think how nice they were to you, and how all of them danced with you." She opened a little pasteboard box, nicely decorated with pictures of birds, and laid the dead flowers in it. "This will be your pretty coffin," she told them. "When my cousins from Norway come to visit this, they will help me bury you in the garden, so that you may come up again next year and be more beautiful than ever." Her Norwegian cousins were 2 pleasant boys named Jonas and Adolf. Their father had given them 2 new crossbows, which they brought with them for Ida to see. She told them how her poor flowers had died, and they got permission to hold a funeral. The boys marched first with their crossbows on their shoulders. Little Ida followed, and her dead flowers in their nice box. Or with her dead flowers in their nice box. In the garden, they dug a little grave. Ida first kissed the flowers, and then she closed the box and laid it in the earth. Adolf and Jonas shot their crossbows over the grave, for they had no guns or cannons. And that is the end of that. That recording took longer than I thought it was going to, so we're actually going to leave it here. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me if there's anything weird going on that I should definitely work on, or what have you. I'll be back on Monday with Thumbelina and maybe another story as well. Again, I'm trying to do this Monday through Friday, with Saturday and Sunday recording kind of things, so that I can make sure it's done in time to do a weekly or a daily upload. But thank you so much for watching, and I will be with you guys on Monday. Bye.